I mean, I could just try wedging him in the gap there, but that feels a little cruel.
It's the Daylight Midnight Show.
Hello and welcome. Now, during last week's show, my back started playing up, and by the end of it, I was starting to seize up. So I don't know whether it showed. I haven't looked it back and checked it, but if there was any grimacing going on or any yelping or me moving strangely like a contortionist, that might be the reason why. So I just thought I'd explain that to you. Thankfully, it's feeling quite loose and okay this week. I haven't decided yet. Next week might be the last show in Series 4. I just suddenly realised that I had said I was going to do 20 episodes in this series. That was going to be my aim, try and do 20 weeks in a row. Then of course I messed it up because we had the hiatus where I went to work abroad for 7 weeks. And all of a sudden this is episode number 19. So I'm thinking that maybe we do stick to the original plan, which is 20 episodes, even though they weren't running consecutively, so it's going to be a completely different time of year that I thought the break would happen. But it's the Easter holidays soon, and it seems to make sense that maybe we have an Easter holidays, completely reset the show and decide whether we're going to bring it back or not, and if we do, we can reboot it and start again from fresh. I haven't decided, my brain will go all over the place with that, but next week's show might be the Series 4 finale. Now, I'm going to do, for the first time ever, our choices by chance at the start of the show, for a reason that will become clear soon. So I'm going to decide now what I'm going to be wearing next week. Before doing that, I need to put my headphones on. Not because I need them to hear what I'm doing, but because Outfit Roulette dictated that I should wear headphones for this week's show. So, what am I going to wear for next week's show? Let's find out by doing the old rolling, rotating randomness of the cube. So next week, whatever's in column white, I'll be wearing my Reflexology work shirt. This just feels wrong. It feels like I'm coming to the end of something and we're only at the start. Whatever's in column red, so I'll have my grey jacket on over the top of my Reflexology shirt. And to accessorise all that, column red again, so nothing. Right, that's that decided. Will my hair be up or down? I can guarantee you I'm not getting it cut before next week. That is heads, so my hair will be flowing down luxuriously. Right, that's next week's show sorted. So now let's get on with this week's show by revealing our slogan of the week, which this week is confusion can be a comfort. What does that mean? Well, these are designed to not mean anything really. However, I have been feeling in a bit of a state of confusion over the past week or so. A few things have happened that I'm feeling a little bit confused about. I'm not sure how I feel about them, and I'm not sure what decision I'm going to make with regards to certain situations. And that bothered me, feeling confused, not knowing what to do, because it's that sense of control where I like to know what's going on in my own life and that I'm kind of responsible for it. And of course life doesn't work that way. So I think I've realised the confusion is a good thing, because the confusion shows me that I'm mulling over ideas, and it shows me that things are happening in my life that are positive and I have to make a decision about them. So it's okay to be confused. So I'm just going to try and embrace the confusion, not think about those things, and hopefully the answer will present itself to me. Not necessarily by the end of the show, but before the decision has to be made. So let's put that up on the door of delights as our slogan of the week. And yeah, do our fascinating fun fact from a Friday. Thank you, Colin, for that suggestion. I've just realised I did it multicoloured, which shows you I was confused because I couldn't even decide what colour pen to use, so that's quite symbolic of that as well. Okay, this week's fun fact then. Something I didn't know last week that I know now, decided to share with you. In France, if you use a walkie-talkie, you have to call it a talkie-walkie. A subtle difference, but one that I found very, very interesting. That is our fact for this week. Now, where are we? Have I been digging a garden or maybe watching birds? Let's find out. It's time for my week in 10 words. So, what have I been up to in the last 7 days using exactly 10 words? Here we go. A week that almost makes me believe in fate. Pollen. So, yeah, hinted at this already. Not going to go into details, but a few exciting things have been happening. It's been a pretty eventful week for me, a pretty monumental week in some ways. And there's been a lot of sniffing. Tree pollen is everywhere. Now, for those of you who do suffer hay fever from tree pollen, it's our time, buddies. For those of you that don't, I mean, it's different for everybody, but to explain what I'm going through at the moment and what I'm feeling like, I feel like someone's shoved a cheese grater up both my nostrils and sprayed bleach in my throat. So that's how I get affected. And I don't think I've ever felt this strongly affected by it this early in the season, because tree pollen is out right through until the end of June, so this is going to be going on for a while. So if the show continues beyond next week, be prepared for my nostrils to start getting this lovely sort of red effect to them and my voice to get deeper and deeper as it starts to affect me. But I'm not going to talk about that too much because we're going to get to hay fever again in a moment. So let's move on to the purple card, which is of course now green and has its own theme song. I've just realised these headphones are actually really decent at cutting sound out, so I can't really hear myself talking properly, so it's giving the show a whole different vibe for me. Anyway, the purple card song, which is now green. If you are a princess, you might soon become a queen. Let's see what I've written on the card that's green. So just a few things this week on the green card that I've written down. Honey just gets everywhere. I don't know if it's just me, but I like to have honey in hot drinks and honey on toast and pretty much anything else. And the stuff gets everywhere. I think the squeezy bottles are okay. But even then, when you tip them up, there's always these little drips of honey that get everywhere. You end up with sticky hands. Everything gets stuck to everything else. It's just a little observation. Honey seems to get everywhere. And then we're back with hay fever. So I've written here, I think tree pollen is God's way of telling me he hates me. And it was interesting. I nearly had this as the fact of the week, right? But then I liked the walkie-talkie one, and I thought I could save this for next week. But then it would be out of the week that I learnt it. And also I just find this interesting. Hay fever actually has nothing to do with hay and has nothing to do with the fever. I think it's a very, very old phrase that sort of describes the symptoms, and they thought that it coincided with the harvesting of hay, which it does, because if you get hay fever from weed pollen, it's around about that harvesting season. But they gave it the name hay fever, even though it's nothing to do with hay, and it doesn't cause a fever. And that's all I've put on there. So I decided, because I was a little bit confused, I didn't even know what to do in the main body of the show this week. And I thought it's Friday the 13th today when I'm recording this, but I'm pretty sure I've done a Friday the 13th one before where I've made up my own superstitions and I've researched what people used to say about Friday the 13th. So I thought maybe I'll make this about hay fever and it could be an educational thing, but you can look this stuff up. It's called allergic rhinitis. We nicknamed it hay fever. But then I thought, I remember there being all these really old remedies years ago for things like headaches, and there were weird things about ways to get rid of warts that I used to have, like you get a bag of pebbles. With one pebble for each wart you have, you leave it on a crossroads, and if somebody else picks that bag up, they get your warts. I tried it, I was desperate, it didn't work. So I went to look up some old remedies for hay fever just to see what we used to say about this stuff and how you could alleviate the symptoms. And of course, with the way the internet works nowadays, as soon as I put in old remedies for hay fever, it tried to sell me a load of current remedies for hay fever. But with a little bit of research, I did find a couple of interesting things. So not about hay fever specifically, but a gentleman called Arthur Corbett back in the 17th century wrote a book of remedies, and this is one that he said would treat itchy eyes, which is a very, very common symptom of hay fever. So he says you take a quantity of snails that live in walls and hollow trees, you put them in a vial over a fire, you collect the liquid that drops out, add sugar and capers to that liquid, and then you use it effectively as eye drops. So the liquid is poured into the eyes. Now, that's quite brilliant. At that time ago, he was coming up with eye drops, but most of it is essence of snail, so I wasn't going to try that one. Then I found a lady called Anne Brummich, who wrote a household book sometime after 1625, and her suggestion for what's called rheum of the nasals, which is when you've got sort of congestion in your nose and associated problems, you boil raisins in a quart of milk, you strain off the liquid, and you drink that liquid while it's still warm. Now, I can do this. I have raisins in the house, I have milk in the house, I have the means of heating up the milk, adding the raisins to it, and then straining it all. So that's what I'm going to do. So the rest of this show is going to be a video of me boiling up some milk, cooking raisins in it, drinking that milk, and then reporting back a few hours later to see whether my symptoms have been alleviated. So I'm going to hand over to another Greg now, which is future Greg, which is me in about 10 minutes. I will see you next week. Have a great 7 days. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. Right, I'm not going to be on camera for this bit, and I'm going to do this very modern... Oh, okay, well that verifies to me that the hot plate is indeed heating up. So I've got some milk in. I don't know how much... It said a quart of milk, which I think is nearly a litre. So what I've done is I've just got enough to cover the bottom there. I'm trying very hard not to burn the milk to the bottom of the pan, because I've done that before. And I'm guessing the idea was that I couldn't really find the recipe. I couldn't find the actual book, just this little statement as part of an article that said you boil the raisins in the milk, and then the idea is you drink the milk that the essence has gone into, I guess. So I'm assuming you don't put too much milk in because you want the raisins to bubble in there and infuse it. So what I've got is, I've realised that the pack of raisins I had, there weren't many left. So I'm going to chuck all them in there. Now the problem I've got is that the nearest shop to me that sells raisins is a 2-minute walk away, and I just think that's a lot of effort just for a YouTube video. So once I can actually get the last ones out of there, not easy doing this one-handed. Get in there. Right, what I managed to find in the bottom of the cupboard is I've got some fruit and nut mix, which has raisins in it. So I thought what I'll do is I'll just tip some of this out, and then I'll add those raisins in as well. So they might have essence of nut on them, but actually I think some of these are sultanas. But the lovely Anne Brunswick in her book didn't specify anything. Maybe they didn't have sultanas back then in 1625 in Britain. But anyway, so I'm going to chuck all these raisins in there as well. And I guess the idea now is we just let it simmer and then we strain it out. Now I did get my colander ready, but I thought it's going to be really difficult to strain this through a colander into a mug so I can drink it. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoop all the raisins and sultanas out and then pour it into a cup that way. So I have my cup waiting. So I think that's all right. That's quite a nice covering, a nice ratio of milk to raisins. And I'm going to turn it down a bit because it's starting to simmer already and steam. So I think the idea now is there's no specification. I'm just going to let that bubble away for a little while. And then I'll report back when I'm about to drink it. Okay, stage 2. This has been bubbling away for about 10 minutes. I kept having to stir it because a film was forming on the top. As you can see, the raisins are more exposed. A lot of the milk has evaporated, so I want to make sure there's enough milk left. But I think it's been infusing away. It's changed a little bit of colour. I think one of the raisins exploded at one point, which made a very strange noise. But I'm going to strain it now. I haven't really thought about how to do this one-handed holding the camera. But I think if I put that there, instead of doing what I thought I was going to do, which is I'll get all the raisins out and then just pour the milk in, I'm going to try and pour as much of the milk in there as possible, and if any raisins go with it, I'll just pick them out with a spoon. Oh, that's not going too bad at all. Let's get as much of that as I can without the raisins dropping in. Man, they look attractive, don't they? And I think that is the one that exploded, look. Well, that was surprising. I just picked something up that's been boiling away in milk for 10 minutes and burnt my finger. Right, there it is then. I'm going to let that cool down a little bit and then drink it down nice and warm. Yummy. Okay, taste test time. I think it's got bits floating in it. It's still steaming quite a bit, but I think it's warm rather than too hot. So once more onto the whatever. Well, it's very sweet. I'll give it that. Yeah. It does feel like it's coating your throat a little on the way down. But then warm milk does that anyway, doesn't it? It does very much taste like milk that's had raisins boiled in it, to be honest. I think it could do with a touch of cinnamon, maybe. Not wanting to cast doubts on the original recipe creator, Anne Brummich. I think it's Brummich. It's B-R-U-M-W-I-C-H, so it could be Brumwich. But I was thinking, place names like Bromwich, West Bromwich, Norwich, you don't pronounce the W. So it's probably Brummich. But anyway, thank you, Anne, from the 17th century. I mean, it's nice. It's a nice drink. It's very soothing. Will it be any better than milk with honey in? I don't know. So I'm going to finish this. I'm going to go about my day, and I'll report back later and let you know whether it did actually make me feel any better. Cheers, Anne. Yeah. Okay, we'll have a little time jump now. It's about 6 hours since I tried this wonderful concoction, and I can honestly say it made no effect whatsoever. It was quite pleasant drinking the milk that had raisins in it, but much more enjoyable was eating the raisins that had been boiling in milk. They were a lovely little snack. So, you know, my hay fever is just as bad as it was this morning, but I've got a new treat out of it that I can treat myself to every so often. See you next week.